Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and anybody else who is joining me today. This is 5 things that we learnt from Sheffield United's absolutely fantastic 1-0 victory against Watford. Now, that was absolutely massive, and I am delighted. And I think the first thing that we learned from this game is that Sheffield United have so much better balance when John Fleck is playing in the centre of midfield. You know, we've seen the performances in the last couple of games. We've seen them against Millwall. We've seen them against Middlesbrough. And I think one of the things that's happened, even since the World Cup, to be honest, let's go back even further than just the games where we weren't winning. And let's look at what our midfield structure has looked like. We've generally had Sander Berge, and he's been with either Tommy Doyle, James McAtee, occasionally Ben Osborne. And what that looks like generally in practice is that sometimes we look really fun, really exciting, and really like a team who can go forward. Sometimes we look like a team who can get penned in, can get stuck defensively, but are really struggling to get out. But what Fleck gave us, I thought, yesterday is a really nice balance. We have the right footer in Berge, who can push on, take us forward. We then have a left footer in Fleck, who can balance the game. He can go forwards and he can go back, and he can give us that little bit of running that potentially the others can't give us, alongside defensive solidity. I think he made a real difference to just the way that we balanced the team and the way that we really started to control the game, particularly early in the second half. Now, that's not to say that he had the perfect game. Of course, he didn't. And of course, we all saw what happened after the substitutions. And that brings me on to the second thing that we learned from this game, which is that 𝗍𝗂𝗂, I've complained at him loads. I've complained about how he does his substitutions, how he's reactive and not proactive. But we found out yesterday that he can be very proactive, and he can do so to really, really good effect. We saw that substitution first of Fleck going off for Doyle coming on, and that gave us so much energy through midfield. I thought Fleck had a good game. Thought he really contributed to our midfield and giving us more control. But what Doyle brought when he came on was just so much energy. He was charging people down. He was pressing high. He's got such good delivery on the ball. He created a little bit of panic in their defence with one of his shots from distance that Backman only just managed to sort of push away. And unfortunately, we couldn't put in the rebound. But that was a really positive move. And it really impacted the game and how United were then able to go forwards, get the goal, but also then not come under too much pressure, because we always had an outlet. We always had a runner who was able to get us out a little bit, who was able to not just give their defenders loads of time to sit and pick their pass, figure out what they were doing. They couldn't find space for Pedro, which I think he'd started to do just a little bit towards the end of the first half. And I thought that was a really impactful, really clever substitution. The second one that he made, that again, I thought had a real impact on the game, was Ben Osborne coming on for Max Lowe. Now, I've liked Max Lowe. I think he's had a pretty good season, all things considered, but I think we can throw it up as he's had a stinker twice now against Watford. I think 𝗍𝗂𝗂𝗏 is just not the player he wants to be up against. And so that sub for Osborne, again, made a difference. What it did, gave us an outlet on the left who was able to go forward and who had the confidence to go forward a little bit more. His final ball was better. He was able to find some good crosses into that box, obviously setting up the one that was then ultimately disallowed for offside. But also defensively, he was really strong. He was really up against 𝗍𝗂𝗏, I think, at this point, and he was really able to just marshal that left. I thought it made a real impact to the game. I thought he had one of his better games for United, actually, Ben Osborne. I thought he made a real impact. And I thought those two subs really showed that when 𝗍𝗂𝗂𝗏 is going to go forwards, he's going to be proactive. He can really make a difference of his in-game management, and he can really push United to that next level that maybe we'd not seen from him in terms of his in-game management before this. The third thing we learned is something that I think we all knew already. We learned this years ago. We relearn it every single time we see him, and that is that 𝗍𝗂𝗏 just wants to be the centre of attention at all times. He can't even let you take a kick off without making sure that everybody knows the game is about 𝗍𝗂𝗏. Obviously, I don't know for certain what happened with the first kickoff or why he made us take that again. Then the second one, he's making you take it again because there's somebody in their half. He just can't resist making sure everybody knows the game is about him. I think generally speaking, he was consistently poor both teams. Don't think it was targeted either side. Don't think he was particularly biased for them or for us. I know I've seen 𝗵𝗍𝗶𝗶𝗏 come out claiming a penalty not even sure what he's claiming about. To be honest, I can't remember any scenario in which I thought, oh yeah, maybe they should have had a penalty. But of course, I will need to watch the highlights back to see if I can actually figure out what the hell he's talking about. But I thought, just generally speaking, it was very much a 𝗍𝗗 performance. He put on the 𝗍𝗗 show, and he gave us everything that you would come to expect from that man. The fourth thing that we learned, and this one is giving a lot of credit to the away team. I think sometimes one of the things you can learn from a game of football is how good certain players are for other teams. And for me, the player that I want to really, really reflect on and tell you how much I love is 𝗍𝗶𝗶𝗃𝗂𝗏. I learned again that I absolutely love this man. I thought when we played Leicester, I think it was first season in the Premier League, it was the only, well, one of the only home games we played, certainly the only home game that we played against Leicester. Thought he was excellent that day. I thought he dominated the midfield. I thought he showed bite, determination. I think he's got energy. Just think he looks really, really committed to being the kind of player who's going to win all his tackles, and you're not going to get through a team who's got him in midfield very easily at all. You've got to make some nice play to get around him. You've got to try and take him out of the game. Now, United did that quite well at times yesterday. I thought getting down the left wing in particular and delivering balls across was really quite effective, and we were trying, obviously, to not go through that centre, not get bogged up by the area of the pitch that he completely dominates. But I would love for us to sign him. I had a conversation with somebody from Watford last week, and it sounds as though they might have got a buy clause for the summer if the loan goes well. And it sounds by all intents and purposes that it is going well. But I would love for us to sign him. I think he's exactly the kind of player who could really make a difference for us if we were to be in the Premier League, because what he can do is be a destroyer. He can win tackles, he can make interceptions, he can run, and he can really make a difference to a team who are going to be having to be really defensively strong. I think he's an excellent player, an excellent signing, a standout whenever I've seen him. And for me, the fourth thing I've learned is that I would love 𝗍𝗶𝗶𝗃𝗂𝗏 to be playing central midfield for Sheffield United, possibly next season, if only that was an opportunity. The final thing that we learned, and I'm going to steal a phrase from somebody I don't like very much, but I think we learned that Sheffield United are just a little bit mentality monsters, because we have had a hell of a week. The fans were getting a little bit nervous. I know for me in particular, anybody who watched our preview, anybody who watched the predictions knows that I was getting nervous and I was feeling quite negative going into this game. But those players really went out there and showed us that they have got the mentality for this promotion battle, and they put on a massive performance and got a really, really huge win. I think from the first minute, you know, Watford started quite brightly. I thought they were coming at us, but they showed they were up for the fight. They were up against them. They showed that we can play, and we wanted to take the game to them. I think after we've played a couple of difficult games, and particularly after the Middlesbrough game, where it felt as though they were better than us, they were playing us off the park a little bit on the game, it was nice to show us just go out there, play against a team at the top of this division, and show that we are more than deserving of our position, that we are one of the best teams in this league. And we really took the game to them. We created chances off corners. We really just took advantage of what we are really good at. We showed everybody that we have got the fight. We're not going to roll over after a couple of bad results. We're not going to give up. We're not going to say that, no, all right, we feel sorry for ourselves. We've got a hard run of games coming. We've lost a couple in a row. Let's let Middlesbrough, with all the momentum, come up behind us. We aren't doing that. We're here to stay. And that really, really showed yesterday. I think that was a huge win. I think it changes all of the mentality about the club. It makes me feel so much more positive. I'm sure it makes all the fans feel positive. And I'm sure it makes those players feel absolutely fantastic. And they deserve it. They deserve it so much, because the mentality to come back, put in a really strong performance, just fight, grit, and really force that goal in. You know, there were 2 or 3 goalmouth scrambles. There's one in their side that we absolutely forced over the line just by sheer will. I think in the end, the 𝗏𝗏 were just sucking it in. And I think that when they had theirs, somehow we just fought to keep them out. There was one in the very last minute, 95th minute, scramble in our box. It could have gone anywhere. There were 2-3 block shots. There was then just a mad scramble to get the ball away. And that just showed that we are up for the fight on this. We have got the mentality. They've been accused sometimes of not having it, of switching off, of defensively letting teams get through them, particularly after the Millwall game. But they showed that's not the case. They showed that they're going to fight. And that, for me, is massive. That makes me feel great. All I want to see from this team is that they've got that fight and that they're going to put it in. So they are the 5 things we learned from our win against Watford. And I think we all learned from watching this video that I am starting to get a little bit excited, because I really, really enjoyed that win, enjoyed the performance. And yeah, up the Blades. Get in.